Hello guys, welcome to a new video, and in this video we are going to talk about VTP modes, and we are going to just actually review VTP. We are going to talk about VTP transparent mode, client, server. Also going to talk about VTP domain, password, and also we are going to talk about how to troubleshoot VTP. So we're going to talk about everything about VTP that I actually remember from when I was from when I actually learned VTP. Okay, so VTP is actually a VLAN transport protocol, and what this protocol does is transport VLANs to other switches. So let's say that if this one is a server right here and I configure VLAN here, it sends it out to the other switches, so you don't have to create VLANs on the other switches. Okay, so it's actually a really good protocol, and it could also be really bad. It is really bad if you introduce a new switch and it's configured as a server, and it could mess up your entire network. Okay, so you have to know how to configure this protocol, and also how to introduce a new switch and how to configure correctly. Okay, so you don't mess up your entire network. So I'm going to start with, I'm gonna configure the VTP client, and the first one is going to be this one over here. Let's go ahead and configure that host name, or give it a host name of client 1. This is going to be sorry, cannot be space, we can just put a dash. Here we go, client 1, and this one we're going to give a VTP mode of client. Okay, and what a client does is receives VLANs from the server, right? And it also, when it receives VLANs from the server, it sends it out to the other clients that are down here, and also adds it to its VLAN database. Okay, so this is what the client does. But you cannot, if you create a VLAN right on this switch, it's not going to send it to the other switches, because it's not a server. Only the server can edit, add, and remove VLANs. Okay, and let's go ahead and configure this as transparent mode. Transparent, and there's the VTP mode transparent. And what transparent does is it can receive VLANs and it can send it to the switches, but it does not add the VLANs that it received from the server. It does not add it to the database. Only the client does that, and also if it is another server over here, the server can also add it to the database. So the transparent mode does not add the VLAN received from the server to its database, but it can create, add, and modify its own VLANs. But when you're creating VLANs on this transparent VTP, it's not going to send it to the other clients. But if you receive VLANs from the server, it's going to send it to the other switches. So that client 2 and client 4 can receive VLANs. Okay, so that's good. Let's go ahead and configure the other ones as clients. VTP mode client, and like I said, the client, when it receives a VLAN from the server, is going to add it to the database. Transparent mode does not add it to its database, and client cannot modify or edit any of those VLANs that it receives from the server. Client 4 for this one, VTP mode client to the other ones. And let's make this a VTP mode client. And this one, let's make it a client as well. And there it is. So this server right here, by default, all the switches are a server. Okay, so if we go over here and do config t, let's give it a host name of server, VTP mode server. Watch what it's going to tell you. This device is already a server. Okay, so what that means is that the switch is already a server, because by default all these switches are configured as a server. Okay, so that's good. And now what we're going to do is we're going to create some VLAN. Let's create VLAN 10, and now we should have from here show VLAN brief, which we have VLAN 10 here. Let's see, show VLAN brief. So show VLAN. Let's see. So actually we have to exit first, and then when we exit out of here, then we are able to get that VLAN. See, show VLAN. Show VLAN brief. Still not here. Let's see. And show VLAN brief. We have VLAN 10 here. Why isn't this one show VLAN brief? Still not getting any VLANs. Let's go ahead and do a, let's add another VLAN. Config t VLAN 20, 30, and 40. Exit. Show VLAN. Or just do show VLAN. There you go. So we have it on 10, 30, and 40. And this one is not able to get a VLANs. Let's take a look over here and show VLANs. So none of them are getting any VLANs. Let's see, go and show VTP status. We can see that we have 9 VLANs over here. It is a server, but it does not have a domain. Let's go ahead and configure a domain, and let's see what happens when we configure a domain. VTP domain Cisco. Let's go to the client and configure VTP domain Cisco and show VLAN. Okay, so we're not able to get VLANs. And why is that? How do VLANs move from one switch to another? How does that happen? Well, it happens is it needs to be a trunk link. So we need to configure this interface right here, which we're going to make it fast Ethernet 0/2, right? And this one fast Ethernet 0/2. So what we need to do over here is configure this interface as a trunk. So let's go ahead and do a switchboard mode trunk, and then we can do a switchboard trunk allow VLAN all. So we're going to allow all the VLANs here. Let's go and go to this client, config t interface 0/2 switchboard mode trunk, switchboard trunk allow VLAN all. Let's go in, show VLAN, and now you can see that we are getting VLAN 10, 20, 30, and 40 from the server. And even if we go ahead and create another VLAN 50, exit, let's go ahead and go to the client, show VLAN, you can see that we got the latest VLAN, which was VLAN 50. Okay, so we are getting the VLANs because we have configured that trunk link, because only over trunk VLANs can be sent on the interface. If it is an access port like this one, we won't be able to get any VLANs at all. And also, if we go over here and we do show VLAN, we do not have those VLANs there because we do not have a trunk link configured for it to get VLANs. So let's go ahead and configure this fast Ethernet 0/1. Okay, let's go ahead and config T interface 0/1 switchboard mode trunk switchboard trunk allow VLAN O. Let's do the same on client 3 so we can receive those VLANs. Switchboard mode trunk switchboard trunk allow VLAN O. And now let's do a show VLAN, and there we go. As you can see, we are getting VLAN 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50 because we have configured a trunk link. Okay, and from here, let's go ahead and config T. Let's do a VTP domain. Let's put in the same domain Cisco. It is already on the Cisco, so that's why we are getting those VLANs. Let's go ahead over here, do an N, show VTP status. So this one is not on the domain, on the same domain. So it is not on the same domain. Let's go ahead and configure a trunk link. 3 and 3. So let's configure that interface into a trunk link and see what happens. We don't know. Let's do the same on client 5. Allow VLAN O. Let's do an N, show VLAN. And we are getting those VLANs from client 3. Okay, even though client 3, if you do an N, show VTP status, this one is on the domain Cisco, and this one show VTP status, this one is also on the now domain Cisco, right? Because it is going to put on the same domain that is receiving the VLANs. But if we go ahead and configure, let's do a VTP password, let's say Cisco, and if we create a new VLAN here, say VLAN 60 and show VLAN, you can see that we have VLAN 10, 20, 40, 50, and 60. Let's go ahead to this client and let's see if we have those. Show VLAN, and we did not get VLAN 60. That's because we are not able to authenticate with the server. We don't have the same password, so we have to configure that password. Exit VTP password Cisco. And now if we do a show VLAN, we should be able to get VLAN 60 because we are authenticating with the server with the same password as the server, as the VTP server. And this one the same here. If we do a show VLANs, we do not have VLAN 60 because we do not have the password to authenticate. So we have to go ahead and configure that password to authenticate. And if we make this a capital letter, we still won't be able to get those VLANs because it is case sensitive. If we do show VLAN from here, we can see right here that we not get that VLAN because the password is case sensitive. So we have to go ahead and configure this as all lowercase Cisco, and now we should be able to get that VLAN number 60. Okay, so the password, it is case sensitive, so be careful with that. So VTP password Cisco show, let's do show VLAN, and here we go. Now we got VLAN 60, okay, from the server. And now from here, enable show VLAN. We do not have any VLANs here. Let's go ahead and config T VTP domain Cisco VTP domain or VTP password Cisco. Let's see, we do have show VLANs. We still do not get any VLANs, and that's because the switch, it is getting the VLANs, but it's not saving it to its database because it is the mode of this switch is transparent mode. Okay, so if we configure this, config T this to a VTP domain Cisco, do show VLAN, we do not get any VLANs because we're not authenticating, so we have to configure a password Cisco. And now we should be able to get those VLANs. Not yet. Do show VLAN, still not getting them. Let's go over here. Let's go ahead and show VTP status. This one is Cisco, and we are not getting anything, and that's because we have not configured this as a trunk link. So we have to configure this as a trunk link. So this one needs to be a trunk link, and this one needs to be a trunk link as well. Always remember that. So let's go ahead to the server, config T interface faster than S7, switchboard mode trunk, switchboard trunk allow VLAN all. Do the same on this interface. Okay, so this is good. Now let's go ahead and configure 03 switchboard mode trunk, switchboard mode trunk allow VLAN all. And now let's go ahead to the client and configure that interface as a trunk. So switchboard mode trunk, switchboard trunk allow VLAN all. Okay, and if we go to do show VLAN, now we are able to get those VLANs. Okay, and if we go and do show VLAN here, we are not getting those VLANs, but the VLANs are being sent down to the client. Okay, this switch is getting the VLANs, but it's not saving it to its database, but it's actually sending these VLANs to the other switches. Okay, so now let's go ahead and configure this trunk link 2 and 2. Go ahead over here, go to 2, switchboard mode trunk, and switchboard mode trunk allow VLAN all. Do the same over here. Let's do a show VLANs, and we're not getting those VLANs yet. Let's do a fast forward so the link will go up, and let's do the same show VLAN again, and we're not getting any VLANs. and this is because we have not configured VTP domain or VTP password, I believe. Let's see. Show VTP status. We do have a domain, Cisco, so we need to configure the password. So VTP password Cisco, and now we do have those VLANs. Show VLANs. There we go. So we have VLAN 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and 60. Okay, so this is really good. So let's see what else we can do. I believe this is all for this reviewing of VTP. So what do you need to do, or how can a VLAN be sent via VTP? So first of all, you need to configure a trunk link, which we did right here, and you have to have a server, and the server needs to match the password and the VTP domain with the VTP client. So this client over here needs to have a trunk link, matching password, and matching domains. If it doesn't have that, you won't be able to get anything. Also for the transparent mode, if this transparent mode, let's go ahead and do a VTP domain. Let's just go ahead and exit out of here first, and let's see what happens if we configure this VTP password as 123456. Okay, and let's create a new VLAN over here. Exit VLAN 70 and show VLAN. You see that we have the VLAN over here. Let's see if we have the VLAN over here. Do show VLAN. So we do have the VLAN over here as well, and we have it on client 3 and client 5. So do we have it on client 2? Let's just do show VLAN. Okay, so we are able to get VLAN 70 even if this transparent mode has the incorrect password for the server. So even if this one is not configured with the same domain and password, this one is still going to send those VTP data to the other switches. Okay, so I believe this is all for this video, and if you guys enjoyed this video on me reviewing VTP domains and this VTP protocol, go ahead and follow me on Twitter at CCNA Daily Tips, and also go ahead and go to my website so you can find more videos like this at ccdtt.com. Subscribe to my channel, like my video, and also have a beer. And thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.